everyone, meet Emma and Diggy. These are Pink-Tongued Skinks, and today we're going to show you how we converted an old cabinet into their epic jungle habitat.
Pink-Tongued Skinks are a fascinating and underappreciated species of lizard. Native to Australia and parts of New Guinea, they're known for their prehensile tails, docile temperament, and of course, their namesake pink tongues. Unlike many skinks, these guys are semi-arboreal and appreciate vertical space. They love to climb and explore, so giving them a large, complex enclosure is key to helping them thrive. Have you ever seen these guys? Let us know down in the comments.
Our client reached out hoping for an awesome upgrade for their two skinks that would feature a Drylok background, live plants, and plenty of hiding spots.
We started with a 44-inch by 44-inch by 24-inch wooden cabinet, which is roughly 200 gallons. Whenever you're converting furniture into a vivarium, there are a few major considerations: waterproofing, ventilation, adding a lid or doors, and ensuring compatibility with your misting system and lighting and electronic components like that. Since every piece of furniture is different, we're not going to go into too much detail on the conversion process here, but we'll highlight the basics.
The first thing you need to do is make sure to drill or cut out any holes you might need later on. For this tank, that meant holes in the top for lights and the auto mister. Be sure to measure carefully and give yourself a bit of wiggle room if you're planning to coat the surface later. Products like Pond Shield will add some thickness. And to prevent escape, the top of the tank is covered in a sheet of mesh.
Next up is waterproofing. In the long term, wood and water don't mix. A piece like this will eventually decay and rot when exposed to the constant moisture of an animal enclosure. To prevent this, we used Pond Shield, a two-part epoxy coating used for waterproofing ponds. It creates a tough, rubber-like seal that adheres to wood. We'll link it below in the description, along with all our other materials. Using our affiliate links when you make your own tanks is a great way to support the channel. Okay, back to the build. To use Pond Shield, sand the interior, reinforce all the corners with fiberglass mesh tape, and then apply 3 coats of Pond Shield, allowing it to cure thoroughly between each coat. After several coats, the inside of this tank is essentially a hard, shiny rubber. Next, we installed sliding glass doors. We mounted custom-cut glass panels on tracks that we cut to size and siliconed in place. The doors won't go on until the very end to keep the scaping process easy and accessible. Now that we have a cabinet fully converted into a tank, it's time to scape it.
So let's start with the background. For this build, we created a custom rock-style background using foam panels and Drylok. We started by cutting panels of insulation foam to the dimensions of each wall, including an extra panel for a central divider that will give each skink their own territory. We used a hot wire cutter, but you can also use a hacksaw to do this. Next, we added some texture to the background panels. We cut out some irregularly shaped pieces of foam. We then glued these to our flat panels. These add visual interest and will give 3D shapes and rocks for the skinks to climb on. We did our best to blend these together and make them look natural.
To add realistic texture, we used a wire brush drill bit and a hand drill. This eats away at the foam, giving it a weathered, rocky look. We wore respirators and worked in a space that was easy to clean because foam dust goes everywhere. In hindsight, doing this step inside the tank might have helped contain this mess.
It takes a steady hand to avoid catching the foam too aggressively with the drill, but moving in small circles gave us the natural and even finish we were after. We also used a knife for some final touch-ups. Once all 4 panels were textured, we use a heat gun to firm up the surface, locking in any loose bits. This isn't strictly necessary, but it helps prevent flaking later.
Now we've got 4 relatively flat textured walls. You could leave it here, but we like to build a little bit more into our backgrounds. We're going to be incorporating plant pots and driftwood. The plant pots will mimic soil deposits in the canopy in the wild, which will let different plants grow on the background itself. The driftwood blends naturally with our scape and gives plenty of platforms for these arboreal skinks to clamber over and rest on. We want them to be able to make full use of their enclosure.
We cut our plant pots in half so they would be easier to attach, then siliconed them into place along the background. We also added some branches of ghost wood to mimic the dried up tree branches and roots. To seal in all our hardscape in place and blend it into the background, we will use our favorite product, Black Pond & Stone spray foam. We spray this expanding foam around all the pots and sticks so it can hold them firmly as it expands. Once it cured, we peeled and cut away at it to give a rough and uneven, natural, rock-like texture. These insulation foam panels have natural crevices in them where they were joined together, so we ran black aquarium safe silicone over these to help smooth it out. So now we're ready to turn this squishy foam into a rock-hard background.
For this magic step, we used Drylok. Drylok is a waterproof masonry coating, and when used on foam, it can create a rough, stone-like texture that is durable and completely waterproof. We used tintable Drylok, which lets you customize your colors by mixing in different pigments. Drylok allows you to make custom lightweight rocks or fake backgrounds in your enclosures. We're starting with a charcoal gray for our base layer, but this is going to get covered up everywhere but the deepest shadows. We added a little bit of our white Drylok to our mixing bucket, followed by some of our pigment. We then mixed with a hand drill. If it was too light, we added some more pigment. When we were happy with the color, we made sure to mark the pigment to Drylok ratio down for future batches.
We brushed a thick coat of the dark Drylok over our background panels, careful to get it into every crevice. It hardens considerably as it cures, giving the background a rock-like texture. We let this coat dry for 24 hours, then reapplied. This is to ensure that everything is truly sealed. This dark color is going to be our shadows, so let's work our way up to some highlights.
We mixed up another back of Drylok using brown pigment. We want a little brown and a little charcoal to give it a dark brown color. We're going to apply this to most of the background, but not all. To emphasize the shadows and give this some depth, we want to hit only the most raised surfaces of the foam with brown and leave the pits and crevices a dark gray-black color. To do this, we're going to use a trick from our other hobby, miniature painting. We're going to do something called dry brushing.
First, take a dry brush with no water or paint on it. Dip it in your paint of choice, in this case, the brown Drylok. Now we want to get most of the paint off of our brush. You can do this by wiping it on a paper towel, but it works best on an uneven, bumpy surface. We used a scrap piece of foam. This is called a dry palette. Finally, when most of the paint is removed, you can apply it to your background using quick and light brush strokes. This will highlight all the raised areas, almost like magic. And look at that difference.
We weren't done yet though. Those are just our midtones. We mixed up our brightest and lightest brown, almost an orange, and went back in with an even lighter dry brush to just barely hit those most raised sections. This really makes the background pop and look extra 3D instead of looking fake and boring. You can do a lot with this technique. It's a great way to make gray rocks or add a green dusting to look like moss. For bonus points, use a dark color in your shadows or on the undersides of rocks. You can also use a darker color at the bottom of your background than at the top. This change in light will make your tank look all the larger.
After it cures or dries, we rinsed off the panels. The Drylok produces white soapy suds at first when splashed with water. We've heard people say plants can't root in the background as well if you don't rinse. Some people skip this step, but we didn't want to take any chances, so we rinsed it until it stopped foaming.
Time to start scaping. We cut our back panel in half to make a groove for the central divider. Then used black aquarium-safe silicone to fix panels along each wall. We began scaping with large corkbark logs and more ghost wood. We hot glued and siliconed these pieces in place. Our hot glue is an extra strong black variety that mimics cured silicone. We'll link it in the description. We hid our hot glue and silicone by pressing substrate into any exposed bits while it cured.
To give the layout a natural flow, we placed one large cork log in two pieces that cross from one side of the divider to the other, tying both sides of the enclosure together. For the ghost wood, we wanted to make it look like the branches and roots of one big tree weaving in and out of the background, so we also tried to align the segments to look cohesive. We made sure that both sides of the tank would have branches going from the top to the bottom so that the skinks would be able to access the full tank and bask when they want to. We're going to add some more branches here and there, but we'll save that for our final planting day.
We used a wide variety of plants for this build, which will all be listed in the description. It heavily featured spider plants, pothos, snake plants, Syngonium, Begonia, and other fast-growing, hardy plants to quickly fill in the background and create a covered jungle. We made sure to rinse out the roots of all our plants and remove their old substrate, and then gave the plants a thorough wash to prevent hitchhikers or pesticides from making it into the tank.
We got the roughly scaped tank into the client's room and got to work, starting with the substrate. We used a mix of terra firma substrate, rehydrated sphagnum moss, leaf litter, and palm fronds, which should provide a great medium for burrowing for the skinks. This particular mix also helps the tank retain structure and humidity without the need for a drainage layer. We thoroughly mixed this substrate and capped it off with some extra leaf litter. To make this tank bioactive, we added cleanup crew. This included springtails, which are these little white insects, and dairy cow isopods. These will feed on decaying plant matter and keep the soil healthy and mold-free.
Now we could start adding the plants. Often, in nature, you're not going to see just one isolated type of each plant, like you might in a garden. So we always try to use a few of each type of plant to make it feel more cohesive and natural. If you want to learn more about plant selection and where you can find good vivarium plants at your local hardware store or garden center, check out our video on it.
We added some spider plants in the pots along the top of the tank on both sides. Spider plants propagate by sending out long shoots downward, so having them up high can give us a pretty cool canopy effect. We also added a small Syngonium on the side to mirror the large one in the back corner. We sprinkled a few peperomia of different colors around the tank at different heights. And before planting the ground fully, we added in some cork pieces to create the starts of some hides and burrows. A lot of these pieces came from their old tanks, which will help smooth out the transition for them and help the environment feel at least somewhat familiar. Ultimately, the skinks will decide where they want to burrow, but for now this will give them some cover. And by placing these burrows close to the front, we can increase the odds that they end up hanging out somewhere visible.
As we went, we also added a couple more pieces of cork bark along the background to give us some more basking spots and connect the different areas smoothly. We kept them in place with our extra strong hot glue, which creates a rubber silicone-like bond when cured. Back to planting. We used some large corn plants to fill in the foreground in both tanks. We added a red Veined Fittonia here next to this big log. This, along with some of our peperomia and begonia, will give an awesome pop of color. We filled in the background with a few different snake plants. These are super hardy and grow well without creating too much of a canopy. We added pothos to climb the backgrounds and grow along the walls. We pinned it in place with toothpicks to help get it started.
Once all the planting and scaping was done, we did a final sprinkle of leaf litter to cap it all off. So now we should be ready to add in the lucky inhabitants. Emma was first. Her owner gently put her on a large log and she was off. She immediately started exploring, and much to our joy, the background worked perfectly and she was able to climb the walls and reach every part of the enclosure without issue. She soon reached her basking spot at the top of the tank and settled in for a nap.
Next up, Diggy was added. He immediately curled up in the safety of a nice elevated shady spot. We try to include a lot of dark safe places like that so the animals always feel one step away from cover. This way, they tend to be out more. If there's only one hide in the whole enclosure, they'll never stray more than a short distance from that one safe spot. But if there's safe spots every few inches, then they'll feel free to roam between them.
And here's some more shots of the skinks enjoying their new tank.
Check out Diggy napping in his large log. He curls up just like a little dragon. So cool to see.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this build or learned something new, drop a like, comment, and subscribe.
We've got lots of other cool videos coming up next, including some 6-month and 1-year updates. If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area and interested in commissioning a tank, feel free to shoot us an email or message us on Instagram at Tangled Vivariums. Or just send us a picture of your own tank. We love seeing your builds.
Let us know in the comments whether you prefer our weekly or bi-weekly upload schedule. And that's all for this week's video, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye!